Charles Koch is a billionaire and one of the 10 richest men in the world. He is unpopular among politicians and is considered a role model among financiers. His fortune is reportedly estimated at $60 billion. Charles Koch is an American oil entrepreneur of Dutch descent. He has headed Koch Industries since 1967. Today it is still the second largest private company in the United States. He is also known as a philanthropist. He is a fierce opponent of power and one of its most successful executives. He opposes the concentration of power, although he himself has been criticized by the U.S. government many times. There are not many companies left in the American business world that are not corporations. There are not many companies left in the American business world that are not public and whose owners do not transfer capital to outside management. The management of Koch Industries Incorporated is still dominated by Charles Koch. And he has stated that as long as he is alive, there will be no other model for this company. Career of industrialist and philanthropist Charles Koch. Charles Koch was born on November 1, 1935, in Wichita, Kansas, USA, to a family of Dutch immigrants. The businessman was always proud of his nationality and took into account the difference in pronunciation between American, Koch, and Dutch, Koch, and the difference in Dutch pronunciation. He always adopted his historic last name. Charles's entire short career was influenced by his father, Fred Koch. He was born while already in exile in the United States. He received a degree in chemical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A few years before he was born, Koch had worked in chemical engineering in the Soviet Union under the Stalinist regime. Under Stalin's regime, he worked in the oil refining industry, but soon became disillusioned with communism. After seeing the mass purges of people he knew, he returned to the United States and became even more disillusioned with communism. With the money he earned in the Soviet Union, he started an engineering firm. He bequeathed it to his son. After high school, he went to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. After high school he went to MIT, where he received 3 degrees. In 1958 he joined the consulting firm Arthur D. Little, but he did not work there long. However, he did not work there long, and his father told him to come home and work in the family business. "My father sent me back to work and said, 'Otherwise you'll be in trouble.'" From Koch's memories of his father. Charles Koch has been chairman and CEO of Koch Industries from 1967 to the present. He is chairman and CEO of Koch Industries. Of his 4 brothers, only David maintains a close relationship with him. He does not have a close relationship with Bill and Frederick. The relationship between Bill and Frederick did not improve after they separated and bought out their shares in the company. Charles Koch and the success story of Koch Industries. After graduation, he took a job with a consulting firm in Massachusetts. But that job didn't last long either. His father, Fred Koch, sent him back home and gradually took over the family business, Rock Island Incorporated, and took over management of the company. In 1967, shortly before his father's death, Charles Koch. In 1967, shortly before his father's death, Charles Koch took full control of the business and began to develop the company according to his ideas. The only requirement of the founder was that the company should not be sold. From this point the entrepreneurial success story of Charles Koch began. At the time of the transfer of control, the company was quite large, with over $65 million in sales, but profits were only $1.8 million. That didn't sit well with the new management. "We don't pay our employees a fixed salary. We recognize their contributions to the company and pay them accordingly." Charles Koch, on employee attitudes. He understood the market structure perfectly and did not respond to warnings from hired managers. Koch began to expand the company quickly. It was his first risky move as an entrepreneur. When he began to manage, he used all of his profits to acquire a new asset, a factory in Europe. He also used all the money to expand his influence in other states. New freight lines were also purchased so that raw materials could be brought in more efficiently. He also continued to build new pipelines. Through these risky measures, Rock Island began to become successful. This happened because all of the company's owners' decisions were based on a long-term view. Unlike his father's attempts to make money in the short term. We don't acquire companies to milk them, but to build and develop new businesses. It's about building and developing new businesses. Charles on acquiring and growing companies in a crisis. The first big, risky but profitable business. In 1968, Koch Industries, which had already changed its name, sold its 35% stake in Pine Bend, a Minneapolis refinery. Minneapolis Refinery, which owned 35% of the company. Pine Bend had two other major owners. Unocal owned 40% and J. Marshall owned 15%. The company tried to get a controlling interest by buying the Union Oil Company of California. However, the owners demanded a price he could not afford at the time. They wanted to prevent him from buying the pipeline without regard to profitability. Koch approached Marshall with a merger proposal. Koch proposed the merger and gave Marshall a small stake in the head office. In this way, he was able to obtain a $25 million loan. This allowed him to obtain a $25 million loan to buy the stock. Only after that did he use the borrowed funds. Entrepreneurs are very careful about such commitments. In this way, Koch acquired a veritable gold mine of stable profits. The deal allowed the Koches to expand their business considerably. The Koches' business expanded considerably, and they acquired a number of assets, including a mineral plant, a DuPont synthetic fiber plant, and oil pipelines. The oil pipelines were then expanded nationwide. Company reorganization. Fred Koch, founder of Rock Island, later renamed the company Koch Industries, which he had founded 4 years earlier. He had 4 sons, Frederick, Charles, and twins David and Bill. Frederick, Charles, and twins David and Bill were the sole owners of Koch Industries Limited under their father's will. Their right-hand man, co-owner and constant partner was David. Beginning in 1980, however, the 2 remaining heirs began to assert their rights to the successful company in court. They wanted an end to the constant disputes and an end to the family wars. In 1983, Charles and David bought back their companies for $1.3 billion. At the time, everyone was pleased with the outcome of this acquisition. At the time, this amount was huge by the standards of the time. In the long run, however, the value of the company increased significantly. This led to a series of legal disputes between relatives. The business of Koch Industries today. Today, Koch Industries is a multi-industry company. The Koch brothers have expanded their business into such industries as petroleum refining, oil refining, machine building, textile and consumer goods manufacturing, woodworking, and others. The holding company reportedly has the second largest capitalization of any private company. Experts believe that if the company goes public, it will become the second largest private company by size. If it goes public, it would even surpass billionaire Ray Kroc's McDonald's. The company's total assets are not known to the public. Koch reveals only those aspects of his life and business that he sees fit. The beauty of science is that every theory has to be tested by skeptics. Koch talks about his company's commitment to environmental programs. Influence on social and political events in the United States. Charles Koch has a significant impact on the U.S. political landscape because of his enormous market presence and wealth. He has a significant influence on the political climate in the United States. The businessman has sponsored and invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in Mitt Romney, President Obama's campaign rival. Former President Barack Obama accused Koch of concentrating too much power in one company. He said the Koch Corporation concentrated too much power in one hand and accused it of influencing democracy through intelligence activities. In this regard, Charles himself said, "We get threats of reprisals against our people. Threats to destroy our business. Anonymous and other groups are trying to hack into our IT systems." Charles Koch, Forbes interview. Our goal has always been true democracy, where people could run their own lives and decide how to spend their money. That's not the case in our current democracy. In our current democracy, we elect someone every 2 or 4 years. In our current democracy, we elect someone every 2 or 4 years to tell us how to live our lives.